In the shadowy world of international espionage, the most devastating betrayals rarely come from enemies. They come from those closest to you. When Ibrahim Traoré discovered classified Burkinabe security protocols in the hands of foreign agents, he never imagined the trail would lead back to someone who had broken bread in his own home. Before we begin today's story, please let us know where you are viewing from. Please remember to subscribe if you like this video. Ibrahim Traoré, the charismatic and determined security chief for Burkina Faso's intelligence directorate, had built his reputation on unflinching loyalty and razor-sharp instincts. Having risen through military ranks during turbulent times, Traoré commanded respect across West Africa's intelligence community for his principled leadership and strategic brilliance. But in the spring of 2023, a series of security breaches threatened to undermine not only his country's stability, but his own carefully constructed network of allies. What began as routine security anomalies soon evolved into a high-stakes chess match against an opponent who seemed to anticipate Traoré's every move. Someone with intimate knowledge of his methods, his strategies, and his deepest secrets. The first signs of trouble appeared innocuously. Minor inconsistencies in diplomatic communications, unexplained access to restricted database files, and subtle variations in patrol schedules at government facilities. Alone, each incident might be dismissed as a clerical error or system glitch. Together, they formed a disturbing pattern that Traoré couldn't ignore. When 3 undercover operatives in neighboring Mali were compromised within the same week, their covers blown with surgical precision, Traoré knew they faced something far more dangerous than random security failures. "Someone is feeding information directly from our inner circle," he confided to his deputy director, Amara Diallo, during a late-night strategy session in his fortified office overlooking Ouagadougou. "The pattern suggests access to alpha-level intelligence, information only 12 people in the entire country are cleared to see." The implications were staggering. Among those 12 individuals were Traoré's closest colleagues, political allies who had fought alongside him during the country's recent transition, and even his childhood friend, who now served as his chief technology advisor. The spy's privileged position explained how foreign interests had managed to outmaneuver Burkinabe forces repeatedly over the past months, compromising critical mineral resource negotiations and undermining regional security initiatives that Traoré had personally championed. As pressure mounted from the presidential cabinet and whispers of incompetence began circulating through government corridors, Traoré realized he faced an impossible dilemma. To catch the traitor, he would need to treat his closest allies as suspects, employing the very surveillance techniques he had sworn to use only against the nation's enemies. Moreover, he would need to do so while maintaining the appearance of normalcy, knowing that alerting the spy would only drive them deeper into the shadows. The stakes transcended professional reputation. Intelligence from neighboring security services indicated that the compromised information was being used to orchestrate a coordinated destabilization campaign across the Sahel region, one that could cost countless innocent lives and throw the fragile democracy into chaos. Ibrahim Traoré's journey to becoming Burkina Faso's preeminent security expert had been forged through personal sacrifice and unwavering commitment to his homeland. Born to humble beginnings in a small village outside Bobo Dioulasso, he had witnessed firsthand the consequences of regional instability during his childhood. His father, a respected community elder, had imparted a philosophy that guided Traoré throughout his career. Trust must be earned daily, but can be lost in an instant. This wisdom had served him well through decades of service, including his formative years at the prestigious Saint-Cyr Military Academy in France, where he formed lasting bonds with fellow cadets from across West Africa. Among these was Marcel Ouedraogo, now his chief technology advisor and oldest friend, whose brilliant mind had pioneered much of the ministry's digital infrastructure. Their friendship had survived political upheavals, personal tragedies, and professional rivalries, a brotherhood Traoré considered unbreakable. Also within his trusted circle was Amara Diallo, his deputy director, whose analytical mind and field experience made her invaluable to operations. Having saved Traoré's life during a covert mission in the lawless Mali-Algeria border region 3 years earlier, Diallo had earned both his professional respect and personal gratitude. Their working relationship had evolved into something resembling family. She was godmother to his youngest daughter. The 12 individuals with Alpha-level clearance included these trusted allies alongside Minister of Defense Konate, 3 senior military commanders, 2 presidential advisors, the ambassador to France, and the heads of domestic and foreign intelligence branches. Each represented a crucial node in Burkina Faso's security apparatus. Each had access to the information that had been compromised. To identify the traitor without revealing his suspicions, Traoré devised an elaborate counterintelligence operation codenamed Mirror Glass. Working with a skeleton crew of operatives personally vetted through years of service, he began seeding distinct pieces of misinformation to each Alpha-level contact, carefully crafted intelligence that appeared genuine but contained unique identifying markers. "We're creating 12 separate realities," he explained to his trusted analyst, Fatou Kohn, as they worked through the night designing these false intelligence packages. "When one of these fabricated items appears in intercepted communications, we'll know exactly which source it came from." While the trap was being set, Traoré methodically reconstructed the history of the security breaches, identifying a pattern that stretched back 18 months, coinciding with a major regional security conference in Marrakesh that all 12 suspects had attended. Whatever had happened at that gathering had potentially triggered the betrayal. Complicating matters was the increasing pressure from President Sanu, who demanded immediate results without understanding the delicate nature of counter-espionage work. "You have 2 weeks to plug this leak, Traoré," the president had warned during their last tense meeting. "After that, I'll be forced to bring in external expertise." The implication was clear. Failure would not only cost Traoré his position, but would represent a profound personal disgrace. As Traoré delved deeper into his investigation, disturbing connections emerged between the leaked intelligence and a series of business deals benefiting European mining interests in Burkina Faso's resource-rich eastern provinces. The spy appeared to be serving multiple masters, passing military and security information to regional terrorist networks while simultaneously providing economic intelligence to corporate entities seeking advantage in negotiations with the government. Personal complications arose when Traoré discovered encrypted communications containing details about his own family, his wife's teaching schedule, his children's school activities, even the security rotation at his private residence. The message was unmistakable. The traitor not only knew Traoré was investigating, but was sending a chilling warning about the potential consequences. Despite this threat, Traoré intensified his efforts, establishing a secure operations center in an abandoned colonial-era telegraph station outside the capital. There, working with his most trusted team members, he meticulously tracked the digital fingerprints of the leaked information while conducting discreet surveillance on each of the 12 suspects. 7 days into Operation Mirror Glass, the first conclusive evidence emerged. A piece of misinformation about fictional uranium deposits near the Niger border, information shared exclusively with Ambassador Traoré, appeared in encrypted communications intercepted from a known front company for French intelligence. Traoré should have felt triumph at this breakthrough, but instead he felt a deepening unease. Ambassador Traoré, while ambitious and politically connected, lacked both the technical expertise and the access patterns that would explain the full spectrum of compromised information. "He's not working alone," Traoré concluded during a midnight briefing with Fatou Kohn. "Or worse, he's being framed while the real traitor remains hidden." The investigation took an unexpected turn when routine surveillance captured Minister of Defense Konate engaging in a clandestine meeting with a known operative from China's Ministry of State Security. While concerning, the conversation, recorded by Traoré's team, revealed Konate was being pressured over gambling debts rather than willingly providing state secrets. This discovery reinforced Traoré's growing suspicion that the actual spy possessed a sophisticated understanding of human intelligence operations, using others as unwitting distractions or scapegoats. As the operation entered its second week, the warning signs around Traoré intensified. His secure communications experienced unexplained outages. Surveillance teams reported being counter-surveilled by professional operatives. A routine security sweep of his office discovered a sophisticated listening device embedded in his desk phone. Technology far beyond the capabilities of regional players. Most disturbing was the psychological warfare being waged against him. Anonymous messages delivered to his private email contained fragments of conversations held in supposedly secure locations. His wife reported being followed by unmarked vehicles during her commute to the university, where she taught literature. These were not just the actions of a spy, but of someone conducting a personal vendetta. The breakthrough came from an unexpected direction. While reviewing security footage from the ministry headquarters, Fatou Kohn noticed an anomaly in the building's power consumption logs. Brief surges occurring at irregular intervals during the night shift when the offices should have been largely unoccupied. These surges corresponded with access to the central server room using credentials that belonged to rotating staff members, suggesting sophisticated identity theft rather than a single compromised individual. When Traoré overlaid these incidents with the timeline of known intelligence leaks, a perfect correlation emerged. Whoever was accessing those servers had deep knowledge of the ministry's security protocols and the technical expertise to bypass multiple layers of protection without triggering conventional alarms. The revelation narrowed the field of suspects dramatically. Among the 12 with alpha-level clearance, only 3 possessed the technical sophistication to execute such operations: Marcel Ouedraogo, his childhood friend and tech advisor; Colonel Philippe Sankara, the military's cybersecurity chief; and surprisingly, Amara Diallo, whose technical training was not widely known outside the department. With time running out before the president's deadline, Traoré made the painful decision to place all 3 under intensive surveillance, including the 2 people he trusted most in the world. Friendship must never cloud judgment in matters of national security, he reminded himself, echoing his father's teachings while authorizing the operation. The final pieces fell into place when Traoré's team intercepted a sophisticated encrypted transmission originating from within the ministry building itself, a data packet containing the complete architectural plans for the presidential compound's new security system. The transmission coincided with Marcel Ouedraogo's access card being used at multiple entry points in an impossible sequence, suggesting he was deliberately creating an alibi by having someone else use his credentials while he carried out the actual espionage. Heart heavy with growing certainty, Traoré ordered a forensic analysis of Ouedraogo's financial records, revealing a complex network of offshore accounts receiving regular payments from shell companies linked to foreign intelligence services. The evidence was becoming irrefutable, though Traoré still struggled to reconcile the betrayal with decades of shared history and apparent loyalty. The final confirmation came when Traoré's team decoded messages between Ouedraogo and his foreign handlers, discussing the principal target in terms that could only refer to Traoré himself. The messages revealed a shocking truth. Ouedraogo's betrayal had begun 20 years earlier. His entire career in Burkinabe intelligence had been constructed as a deep cover operation for foreign interests. Most devastating was the discovery that Ouedraogo had been instrumental in an ambush that had killed Traoré's older brother, a military officer, during operations against insurgents 15 years earlier. An incident that had drawn the 2 friends closer as Ouedraogo helped Traoré through his grief, all while serving the very forces responsible for his brother's death. With overwhelming evidence in hand, but his heart still resistant to the truth, Traoré prepared to confront the man he had considered a brother, knowing that the encounter would forever alter both their lives and potentially the future of their nation. The confrontation took place on a stormy evening in Ouedraogo's private office at the ministry, a space designed by Traoré's security team to be free from surveillance, but now subtly modified to record every word and gesture. Rain lashed against bulletproof windows as lightning occasionally illuminated the Ouagadougou skyline, nature providing a dramatic backdrop for the human storm about to erupt within. Traoré arrived unannounced, carrying a bottle of the 25-year-old Scotch whiskey they had promised to share on the anniversary of their graduation from St. Cyr. Ouedraogo greeted him warmly, embracing him with seeming genuine affection, before noticing the unusual tension in his old friend's bearing. "You look troubled, Ibrahim," Ouedraogo said, accepting the offered bottle with appreciation. "Has President Sanu been increasing pressure about the security breaches?" The casual reference to Traoré's most pressing concern, delivered with just the right note of friendly concern, crystallized for Traoré how expertly he had been manipulated over the years. Every confidence shared, every vulnerability exposed had been methodically catalogued and exploited by the man now pouring 2 glasses of whiskey with steady hands. "I've been reflecting on loyalty," Traoré replied carefully, accepting the glass but not drinking. "On how we define it differently based on our values and priorities." Ouedraogo smiled slightly. "Always the philosopher. That's why you've succeeded where others failed. You understand the human element beyond the technology and tactics." Traoré placed a small wooden box on the desk between them. Inside was a faded photograph of both men in their academy uniforms, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning with the unbridled optimism of youth. "Do you remember what we promised each other that day?" Traoré asked softly. "That we would build a safer Burkina Faso together," Ouedraogo replied without hesitation, his expression softening with apparent nostalgia. "That we would put country above personal ambition." Traoré nodded slowly, studying his friend's face for any sign that these words had ever held genuine meaning for him. "I've often wondered what shapes a man's ultimate loyalties, Marcel. Is it ideology? Money? Or something more primal, a need to be on the winning side regardless of what that side stands for?" A subtle change passed over Ouedraogo's features, almost imperceptible but caught by Traoré's trained eye. The calculated warmth receded slightly, replaced by sharper attentiveness. "That's an unusual philosophical tangent, even for you," Ouedraogo remarked, his tone still casual but with an undercurrent of caution. "Has something specific prompted this line of thinking?" Rather than answering directly, Traoré removed a sealed envelope from his jacket and placed it beside the photograph. "Operation Mirror Glass has concluded," he said simply. The change in Ouedraogo was immediate though controlled. A reflexive straightening of posture, a momentary widening of eyes quickly masked by a puzzled expression. "I'm not familiar with that operation code. Is this a new security initiative?" Traoré opened the envelope and removed several photographs. Ouedraogo entering the server room using another employee's credentials, meeting with a known foreign operative in a hotel in Abidjan, accessing Traoré's private files when he believed himself unobserved. "For someone whose career is built on digital expertise, you placed remarkable faith in the invisibility of electronic transactions," Traoré said, his voice betraying no emotion as he laid out financial records showing the pattern of payments to offshore accounts. 20,000 euros monthly for the past 15 years. "You've amassed quite a fortune while selling out your country, selling out me." Ouedraogo's expression underwent a fascinating transformation, from calculated confusion to measured assessment to calm resignation, all within seconds. When he finally spoke, his voice carried a different timbre, colder, more precise, stripped of the warmth that had characterized their decades of friendship. "You've obviously made up your mind about these interpretations," he said, gesturing dismissively at the evidence. "Though I'm disappointed you would manufacture such absurd accusations against me rather than focusing on real security threats. Like the coordinates provided to insurgents for my brother's convoy 15 years ago?" Traoré asked quietly, placing a final document on the desk, a decoded message from Ouedraogo's handlers acknowledging receipt of the critical intelligence that led to the ambush. The mention of Traoré's brother shattered Ouedraogo's composed facade. For a fleeting moment, genuine regret crossed his features before discipline reasserted itself. "Moussa was collateral damage in a larger geopolitical reality," Ouedraogo said flatly. "Just as you would be if you continue pursuing this misguided investigation." The naked threat hung between them, the final confirmation Traoré needed, though it brought no satisfaction. Why, Marcel? We had everything. Respected positions, the ability to effect real change, friendship that most men would envy. What could possibly be worth betraying all of that? Ouedraogo laughed, a harsh sound devoid of humor. You still don't understand, do you? There was never anything to betray, because I was never yours to begin with. Before we met at St. Cyr, before you knew my name, I had already been selected, trained and deployed. Our chance meeting, our natural friendship, all meticulously engineered to place me exactly where foreign interests needed an asset. The calculated nature of the deception struck Traoré with physical force. Every memory of their shared history now required re-examination. Every confidence, every moment of perceived connection, contaminated by premeditation and ulterior motive. 25 years, Traoré whispered. Was there ever a genuine moment between us? Something complicated flickered in Ouedraogo's eyes. That's the irony of deep cover work, Ibrahim. Sometimes the pretense becomes so consuming that the lines blur. There were moments, your daughter's naming ceremony, the night we waited at your mother's deathbed, when I almost wished I could be the friend you thought I was. Almost? Traoré repeated bitterly. Almost? Ouedraogo confirmed without apology. But we make our choices long before we understand their full implications. I chose my side as you chose yours. Traoré stood, signaling to the security team waiting outside. And now we both face the consequences of those choices. As armed officers entered the office, Ouedraogo remained seated, making no move to resist. His expression shifted to one of professional assessment. You realize this changes nothing. I'm merely one node in a vast network. Others are already in place, some so deeply embedded you'll never find them without me. Is that an offer of cooperation? Traoré asked, maintaining rigid control over his emotions. An observation, Ouedraogo replied coolly. And perhaps a warning. The game continues with or without individual players, Ibrahim. As security officers secured Ouedraogo, he looked directly at Traoré with an expression that blended challenge and something resembling respect. You were always exceptional, the only real threat to my operation in 25 years. In different circumstances, we might truly have been as brothers. Traoré watched impassively as his oldest friend was led away in handcuffs, carrying state secrets that might never be fully recovered and leaving behind wounds that would never completely heal. Secure all his access points, Traoré instructed the cybersecurity team waiting in the corridor. Change every protocol he helped design. Assume everything he touched is compromised. As the room emptied, Traoré found himself alone with the evidence of betrayal spread across the desk and the untouched glasses of whiskey. With methodical precision, he gathered the documents back into their folder, leaving only the old photograph. For a long moment, he stared at the image of two young men with arms around each other's shoulders, their entire futures before them, one believing in the friendship, the other cultivating it as cover. With deliberate finality, he placed the photograph back in its box and closed the lid on 25 years of expertly crafted deception. The arrest of Marcel Ouedraogo sent shockwaves through Burkina Faso's security establishment and diplomatic circles across West Africa. The subsequent investigation revealed the breathtaking scope of his espionage. Thousands of classified documents compromised, dozens of operations sabotaged, and countless lives endangered through his calculated betrayal. More disturbing were the connections uncovered between Ouedraogo's activities and regional terrorist organizations that had received critical intelligence enabling attacks on civilian and military targets throughout the Sahel. For Ibrahim Traoré, the professional triumph of uncovering such a high-level infiltration was inseparable from the personal devastation of losing his closest confidant. The knowledge that their entire friendship had been an elaborate cover story designed to facilitate espionage forced him to question every relationship and re-examine every memory. Trust, already a rare commodity in his profession, became even more elusive. In the months following Ouedraogo's arrest, Traoré led a comprehensive overhaul of Burkina Faso's intelligence apparatus, implementing new security protocols and vetting procedures, while personally overseeing the debriefing of his former friend. Though Ouedraogo provided valuable information about his foreign handlers in exchange for considerations during his inevitable trial, he maintained the calculated opacity that had served him throughout his career, revealing enough to demonstrate cooperation while clearly withholding critical details that might serve as leverage in the future. President Sanu, initially skeptical of Traoré's methods, publicly commended his persistence and integrity, awarding him the nation's highest civilian honor in a ceremony that Traoré attended with characteristic restraint. The professional recognition, while warranted, did little to fill the void left by decades of manufactured friendship. Perhaps the most profound consequence came not in policy changes or security reforms, but in Traoré's personal philosophy. "Betrayal doesn't destroy trust," he remarked during a rare interview months after the case concluded. "It transforms it from naive assumption into deliberate choice. We choose to trust not because we're certain of others' intentions, but because the alternative, perpetual isolation, is no way for nations or individuals to thrive." This hard-won wisdom guided Traoré as he rebuilt both Burkina Faso's security infrastructure and his own capacity for professional collaboration. More cautious, perhaps, but refusing to surrender to the cynicism that Ouedraogo's betrayal might have justified. The line between loyalty and betrayal often hinges on invisible choices made long before consequences become apparent. What would you do if faced with discovering a devastating betrayal from someone you trusted completely? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to watch our related video on the psychological aftermath of espionage and double lives. The most profound insights often come from confronting our most uncomfortable questions about human nature and the boundaries of trust.